When Jason Newsted joined Metallica in 1986, he was just a hired gun. He was getting paid $500 per week. That was a lot of money for Newstead back then. He would have easily agreed to play bass for a sandwich and a beer at that time. Now, before we delve into this great story, please subscribe so that you don't miss any of these cool stories in the future, and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Now, Newstead played a couple of club gigs with Metallica in Los Angeles, and then they're off to Japan. For the first 5.5 months, Jason Newsted was just a hired hand session musician in Metallica. And then, according to Jason, he joined Metallica as a full member and started getting a full cut. Newsted co-wrote the first track, Blackened, on Metallica's 1988 album, And Justice for All. He is credited as a songwriter on the album and receives publishing royalties. And since the album went 8 times platinum in the United States and platinum in many other countries, Jason earned a lot of money. Metallica's 1991 Black Album was a huge commercial success. They sold 1 million records just in 2 weeks after its release. Jason Newsted is credited as a songwriter on only one track on the album, My Friend of Misery. He co-wrote the song with James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich. So, if they paid him 10 cents for each record sold, then Jason got $100,000 in 2 weeks. And since Metallica sold 30 million copies of Black Album worldwide, Jason must have earned at least $3 million. So, when Black Album became a huge success in 1991, Jason started receiving thousands and thousands of dollars. He remembers that the Metallica guys liked to spend their money on wine and fancy things. They were all driving Porsches and stuff like that. Once Kirk Hammett took Jason to a couple of luxury stores in Paris, and Jason threw down a lot of money for some nice clothes and shoes and stuff. He'd never done that before. Jason's ego trip lasted for about 5 to 6 months. He was walking on air. But eventually, he pulled himself together. It happened when he came back home from touring to be with his girlfriend again. He just realized that's not who he is. Jason explained, "It just is not who I am. I pretend I was going to get this fancy car and all that crap, and I'd rather have a 65 Mopar than I would have that Lamborghini crap anyway. But the other guys were driving Porsches and fancy cars and stuff, and I'm like, I can afford that too." According to Jason, he's always been very frugal with his Metallica earnings, and that's why he still has them. There's actually a quote from 1992 when someone is asking Jason why he's making his own sandwiches instead of ordering room service, and Jason replied, "I got plans for those millions, and it ain't foolish sandwiches." Very smart. But what plans did Jason have in mind? Probably $1 million properties with Jason bought, or maybe his own projects. Despite being a full member of Metallica for almost 15 years, Newsted only received writing credits for 3 songs. The third and last song he co-wrote with Metallica was Where the Wild Things Are, the 9th track on the Reload album released in 1997. The album went 3 times platinum in the United States. So, Newsted started thinking about doing side projects like Echo Brain. In 2001, Jason Newsted proposed an official hiatus for about 1 year so he could start working with a band that he felt had potential, Echo Brain. He made it clear Metallica would remain his first priority, but James Hetfield was opposed to the idea and said, "When someone does a side project, it takes away from the strength of Metallica, and that a side project is like cheating on your wife in a way." So, James argued any member that dedicated themselves to a band other than Metallica would be viewed as weakening the band. Jason pushes back, and he was told if he refuses, his service would no longer be needed. And he quit. A few months later, Hetfield entered rehab. So, After Metallica, Jason did side projects and played with other bands and artists. In December of 2012, Jason formed his own band called Newstead, which lasted for about a year. The band released only one album in 2013. In 2014, Jason ceased touring with Newstead because the project was unprofitable, and he says, "It cost me an awful lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars to take the Newstead band around the 22 countries we played, but it was worth it for the lessons I learned and the respect that was shown to us and the camaraderie of the band. But I couldn't continue because the business is such a harsh thing now and so different than what I had known." Jason still receives royalty checks from Metallica. He could probably just live off Metallica royalties for the rest of his life. The Black Album never sold fewer than 1,000 copies a week and moved a weekly average of 5,000 copies in 2016. So, if Jason gets 10 cents from each record sold, then he gets $500 a week just for the Black Album alone. Or maybe more, because in 2012, Metallica took ownership of all their master recordings, including all music and long-form videos from the Warner Music Group. So, here's what happened. In 1994, after touring duties for the album were finished, Metallica filed a lawsuit against its label, Elektra Records, to terminate their contract and gain ownership of their master recordings. The group based its claim on a section of the California Labor Code that allows employees to be released from a personal services contract after 7 years. By this time, Metallica had been with the label for more than a decade and had racked up sales over 40 million records. But they were still operating under the terms of their original 1984 contract, which provided a relatively low 14% royalty rate. The band members claim that they were taking the action because Robert Morgado had refused to honor a new deal they had worked out with Bob Krasno shortly before he quit the label. Elektra responded by countersuing the group, but in December, New York Magazine reported rumors that then Warner Music, Elektra's parent company, U.S. Chairman Doug Morris had offered Metallica a lucrative new deal in exchange for dropping the suit, which was reported to be even more generous than the earlier Krasno deal. In January, the group and Elektra jointly announced that they had settled the suit, and although a non-disclosure agreement kept the terms secret, media sources claimed a significant increase in royalty payments to the band, as well as a renegotiation of the group's recording contract, were key factors in Metallica and Elektra coming to terms. In 2012, Metallica took ownership of all their master recordings, and the band launched their own record label, Blackened Records. All the way back in 1994, Metallica made a deal with Warner Music Group that on November 30th, 2012, the band would exclusively own all of their recordings, including all their music videos and long-form videos. Jason revealed that when he joined the band, Metallica already had a well-organized management team that handled their business. Since then, the people that handled and guided them also took Jason Newsted under their wing and guided him. They helped him invest his money wisely, so Jason invested his Metallica money and made a lot of money from record and t-shirt sales. Jason Newsted actually owns $1 million properties. In late 2019, Jason sold his Walnut Creek, California house for $2.3 million. In October of 2020, Newstead bought a lakeside New York home for $6.1 million. In 2021, Newstead sold his ranch in historic Sulu, Montana. The listing price was $4.95 million, but the final sale price wasn't disclosed. Newstead and his wife Nicole have been longtime residents of Jupiter, Florida. So, Looks like Metallica treated Jason Newsted very fairly and made him a very rich guy who can live happily without working for the rest of his life.